The brush trembled as it touched the canvas, the black stallion's eye now alive with terror, frozen mid-fall.
That cliff. You've painted it before, but never like this. It's as if you saw it happen.
The watercolor was unmistakable. El Diablo's drop, and a black stallion tumbling like a broken shadow against the stone. 2 days later, at dawn, a ranch hand found them. Brandon Torres, the richest man in the valley, and his stallion, shattered at the base of that same cliff.
It's happening again. The painting came true, just like the others.
By mid-morning, the sheriff's truck crunched to a halt in the dusty yard, a tin star glinting on the door.
Mrs. Aguilar, I have a warrant for Rebecca. The prosecutor's calling it witchcraft and conspiracy.
Witchcraft. She's an 11-year-old child who can't speak. You can't do this.
The cuffs snapped shut over wrists, still smudged with watercolor. The girl didn't struggle, her gray-green eyes fixed on something far away. Inside the farmhouse, her aunt sank against the doorframe, clutching the painting of the falling horse to her chest like stolen evidence. In the windowless room, Sheriff Timothy sat across from the mute girl, her cuffed hands folded on the scarred table.
You painted that horse falling from El Diablo's drop. 2 days later, Brandon dies there. You want to tell me how you knew?
I only paint what comes to me. I don't know why.
The door slammed open. Linda Torres, still in black mourning silk, swept in with a finger pointed at the child.
She cursed him. That painting is a hex. My husband is dead because of this girl.
Aunt Clara pushed past the deputy at the threshold, her voice breaking.
Rebecca doesn't speak. She never has. These paintings are just a child's scribbles.
This scribble matches the cliff and the horse perfectly. You call that coincidence?
Rebecca was led back to her cell, the painting left on the table like a silent accusation.
I need to find every painting she's ever made. There must be something that can prove she's not a witch.
By lantern light, Aunt Clara climbed to the barn loft where Rebecca's paintings were stacked like forgotten secrets.
The barn fire, the flood. Each one matched a tragedy that followed. It wasn't coincidence.
Then, at the bottom, a smaller painting. A couple and a shadowed figure with a gun, painted when Rebecca was 8.
I don't understand this one, but it frightens me more than all the others.
By noon, Clara walked through the dusty main street clutching a cardboard box, ignoring the townsfolk's stares.
Mr. Valdez, these are all her paintings. Every single one came true, I swear it.
You are saying a child predicted these events? That's extraordinary.
Henry lifted the lid. The paintings shimmered in the slanted light. A barn in flames, a flash flood, a horse mid-fall.
I'll take the case, but we don't just need to prove she's not a witch. We need to find the truth behind these images.
He believes her. Finally, someone believes her.
3 days later, the town hall bristled with ranchers and farmers. The preliminary hearing for the mute girl who painted death.
I am ordering a full trial. The widow has the right to be heard, and the child deserves a proper defense.
This girl cursed my husband. Her painting proves it. She's a danger to every family in this valley.
Your Honor, these are a child's drawings. There's no proof of witchcraft. This is superstition, not law.
I will review all the paintings, but the trial will proceed. Court is adjourned.
Rebecca never looked up. Her cuffed hands rested motionless on the scarred table, the painting of El Diablo's drop propped beside her. The judge allowed Rebecca to return home with her aunt pending trial, but barred her from leaving the county and imposed a strict curfew. As Clara led Rebecca through the square, the crowd parted like they were contagious.
Walk straight ahead, mija. Don't look back. This is only the beginning. They won't stop until they destroy her.
The trial opened on a Thursday under a low ceiling of gray cloud. Linda Torres took the stand in black silk.
I watched that girl paint it. 48 hours later, my husband was dead. It isn't coincidence. It's a curse.
Behind the prosecutor, Linda's weeping painted the jury box in sympathy. 2 jurors already nodded along.
Brandon was my whole world. That child took him with a brush and a jar of water.
You found the painting 2 days before the accident. Any proof it's more than a drawing?
The proof is in the rocks under that cliff. Everyone can see the match.
I didn't want it to happen. I only painted what screamed inside my head.
Judge Morrison admitted the watercolor as Exhibit A. The courtroom leaned forward as the painting was placed on an easel. By noon, the prosecution rested. 12 pairs of eyes refused to meet Rebecca's empty stare.
They don't want truth. They want a witch. I have to show them something stronger.
The defense called Clara Aguilar to the stand. She carried a cardboard box, its corners softened by years of storage.
This one, a barn engulfed in flame. 3 days later, the Henderson place burned to the ground. And here, a flash flood swallowing a house, the storm of '56, 3 weeks after she painted it.
The box tilted, and the paintings spilled across the railing like confessions. A fallen oak, a broken bridge, a child unmoving. The prosecutor rose, voice sharp with skepticism. He called them lucky guesses, a superstitious woman reading patterns where none existed.
They aren't guesses. She saw these things. I know because I was there when each came true.
Clara's voice cracked. She was no longer a witness, but a woman defending a child the world wanted to burn. Judge Morrison leaned forward, studying the stack of watercolors. For the first time, his expression shifted from duty to curiosity.
I want every single painting examined by this court. All of them.
In his chambers, Judge Morrison spread the paintings across a long oak table, the watercolors catching the slanted afternoon light. Then, his hand stilled on one, 2 figures crumpling, a dark-coated man raising a pistol, his face hidden by shadow.
Rebecca, who are these people?
The girl's fingers twitched against the table, but she did not reach for the image.
The memory is there, behind a wall of silence I cannot break.
She painted that 3 years ago, when she was 8. I never asked her about it.
This is more than a child's imagination. It's too specific, too deliberate.
The judge turned the painting toward the window, the light catching a glint of metal on the shooter's hand.
I am admitting this painting as evidence. It stays in the court record.
The painting was sealed in an evidence sleeve, its secret untouched, but now a part of the trial. Linda cornered Clara in the shadow of the courthouse columns, her voice a low threat wrapped in silk.
Take $10,000, drop the case, leave town with the girl, and never come back.
You think I'd sell my niece? She's not a curse. She's the only truth left in this town.
Within the hour, Linda appeared at Henry Valdez's cramped office, the same envelope now bulging with double the cash.
20,000. You are a struggling lawyer. Walk away from this trial.
My integrity isn't for sale. And that painting, it's already told me more than you ever will.
Linda stormed back to the Torres ranch, her heels cracking against the porch boards.
That painting is a noose. If they recognize the ring, I have to get out before it tightens.
She snapped open a leather suitcase and began throwing in silk blouses and jewelry, her movements jagged with fear. Outside, the afternoon sun sank lower, but inside that room, the shadows only grew. When court resumed, a weathered ranch hand took the stand, twisting his hat in both hands. He testified that Brandon had confided in him. He was planning to confess something, but never said what.
This man was on the verge of a confession. Something pushed him off that cliff.
The judge gestured to the bailiff to bring the sealed painting, the one of the shadowed shooter. Under a magnifying glass, the watercolor revealed a turquoise ring on the shooter's finger, painted with startling clarity.
That ring. I've seen that ring before, on Linda Torres's hand.
The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Linda gripped the armrest, her face draining to chalk.
Sheriff, I am ordering a full investigation into Brandon Torres's death. This is no longer a trial about witchcraft.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll take men to the cliff tonight.
The gavel fell. The trial of the mute girl was suspended, but the hunt for a killer had just begun. Sheriff Timothy climbed the rocky path to El Diablo's drop at dawn, the same light that had revealed the bodies days before. He knelt where Brandon's body had lain, studying the ground with a hunter's patience. Scuff marks scratched the dirt, boot heels dragged backward. Not a fall, a struggle.
This wasn't an accident. Someone fought him here.
His flashlight beam caught a glint among the rocks. A broken turquoise ring, half buried in the soil. He held the fragment up to the sky, the exact same stone in the little girl's painting.
I almost hung a child for a lie.
The wind howled through the gap. But the sheriff's mind was quieter now, focused on Linda Torres. He bagged the ring and the soil samples, his jaw set with grim purpose. By the time he reached the ridge again, the sun was high, but the shadow of the cliff still clung to him. Court was reconvened under a strained silence. Judge Morrison entered with a leather evidence pouch, his face unreadable.
I place before this court 2 items, a child's watercolor of a shooting and a broken turquoise ring found at the cliff.
He held the painting beside the ring fragment. The turquoise was identical. Even the hairline crack in the stone matched the brushstrokes.
They found it. The ring I tore from his finger when he tried to push me away.
This painting is not a curse nor a prophecy. It is the suppressed memory of a child who witnessed murder.
The gallery erupted. Linda Torres shot to her feet, her voice a raw shriek that cut through the commotion.
You can't believe a mute child's drawings. She's a witch, a liar.
This court declares a mistrial. Sheriff, take the widow into custody for questioning in the death of Brandon Torres.
Sheriff Timothy stepped forward solemnly, but his handcuffs were no longer meant for the child. Linda's silk sleeves twisted as the cuffs bit down.
The silence inside me is cracking. I remember a gunshot and my mother's hand slipping from mine.
As the sheriff led her from the courthouse, Linda wrenched free and bolted, silk tearing, heels cracking on stone. She slid into a parked sedan, engine screaming, and tore toward the town limits with dust boiling behind her. Sheriff Timothy had already radioed ahead. A barricade of patrol trucks blocked the only road out.
They won't take me. I'll lose them in the outcrops.
She swerved onto a dirt track, climbing toward the jagged outcrops, but the cruiser stayed on her tail. A fallen limb forced her to brake. Linda threw the door open and ran on foot, hair wild, eyes white with panic.
Stop running, Linda. There's nowhere left to go.
She's a devil child. That painting is evil. I did what I had to do.
Timothy caught her arm and snapped the cuffs tight, the same steel that had bound a mute girl just days before. By nightfall, Linda Torres sat in a jail cell, her silk dress smeared with dirt, staring at the wall Rebecca had once faced. In a small interview room, Sheriff Timothy placed a sheet of paper and a stick of charcoal in front of Rebecca. The child's hand moved without hesitation, the charcoal scratching a rough cliff edge, a woman's silhouette shoving a man over.
The night screams in my head. I have to let it out.
She's drawing the cliff, the fall. Linda pushed him.
It matches the scuff marks. This is exactly what happened.
The sketch was crude but unmistakable. Linda's handprint on Brandon's back, the horse rearing behind them.
All these years, she's been holding this inside, painting it over and over.
The sheriff bagged the drawing as evidence. By noon, Linda Torres was formally charged with the murder of her husband. The sketch was filed beside the watercolor, together forming a silent but undeniable testimony.
For the first time, my silence has a voice.
The same interrogation room that had held a silent child now held Linda Torres, her back straight, defiance still hardening her jaw.
The drawing matches the evidence. We know you pushed him. Tell me why.
Linda's composure cracked. She stared at the charcoal sketch and finally spoke.
Brandon was going to ruin everything. He wanted to confess about the girl's parents.
Confess to what? What did you do?
We killed them 7 years ago. The child saw, but we thought she was too young to remember.
The confession spilled out. A land deal, a midnight argument, a pistol, and a 4-year-old hiding behind a barrel. Timothy leaned back, his hands steady on his revolver. The painting hadn't been a prophecy. It was a witness.
I pushed Brandon before he could destroy me. The horse was just collateral.
By the time the recording was signed, the sheriff had the full truth. 2 murders, 1 child's silence, and a watercolor that had spoken for them all. 7 years earlier, on a moonless night, a land dispute had drawn Brandon and Linda Torres to the edge of a small farm. A 4-year-old Rebecca crouched behind a water barrel, her small hands clamped over her mouth. Her parents pleaded, their voices cut short by the click of a pistol hammer in Brandon's hand. Linda Torres stepped forward, her words cold and final. Make it quick. 2 gunshots cracked the night. Rebecca's mother fell first, then her father, their bodies crumpling in the torchlight.
The world turned to gray. I wanted to scream, but my throat was stone.
The killers searched the darkness, boots scraping near the barrel, but didn't see the child. When Rebecca finally crawled out at dawn, her voice was gone, stolen by a horror too vast for words. The images seared into her memory, the glint of a turquoise ring, the shadow of a man, the sound of hooves fleeing. From that morning, Rebecca carried the world inside her and bled it out onto paper, one brushstroke at a time, by order of Judge Morrison. All charges against Rebecca Aguilar, witchcraft, conspiracy, were voided that morning, the ink still wet on the dismissal. Aunt Clara, who had waited outside the door for hours, surged forward the moment it opened and pulled the child into a fierce embrace. Rebecca didn't resist. She simply leaned into the embrace, her small frame shaking with the weight of everything unspoken.
Mija, you are free. No more handcuffs, no more cages.
Then, with a deliberation that made onlookers catch their breath, Rebecca reached up and touched her aunt's tear-streaked cheek. Her lips parted, and a thin, reedy sound, half moan, half breath, escaped into the quiet hallway, startling even herself. Sheriff Timothy, standing nearby, slowly removed his Stetson and pressed it to his chest. Clara covered Rebecca's hand with her own and let out a sob that held 7 years of waiting.
That's my girl. She's still in there.
Hand in hand, they walked out of the courthouse and into a sun that seemed to welcome them home. A week later, in a half-empty courtroom, Linda Torres was brought before Judge Morrison to hear her fate.
For the double murders of Elena and Mateo Aguilar, and the murder of Brandon Torres, this court sentences you to life without parole.
The gavel fell like a period at the end of a long, dark chapter. Linda was led away, her silk dress now a faded shadow. By the next morning, the story had spread beyond the valley. Mute girls painting Solve's murder. Sets legal first. Legal scholars across the state debated the admission of artistic evidence. But Judge Morrison's precedent held. A child's watercolor had spoken truth. On the farmhouse porch, Rebecca sat with a fresh sheet of paper, her brush dipping into a sunrise palette.
That's El Diablo's drop, isn't it? But there's no horse, no fall, just light.
The cliff rose in soft watercolor, but now a golden sun crested its edge, spilling warmth where a black stallion had once tumbled.
The dark images don't own me anymore. I can paint the light now.
Clara knelt beside her, and together they watched the sun climb over the ridge, the farm quiet and whole for the first time in years. That same week, a federal review board upheld Judge Morrison's ruling, cementing a precedent. A child's watercolor could speak in court.
For the first time in any court of this nation, an artistic image has been accepted as memory, and it brought a killer to justice.
By the afternoon, the town square transformed. Bunting hung, a banner read, "Our girl vindicated," and the crowd that once hissed now cheered. Children broke from the crowd, carrying small jars of paint, cobalt, ochre, crimson, and pressed them into Rebecca's hands.
You see, Misha? They understand now. You are not a witch. You are a miracle.
They gave me paints, not ropes, not handcuffs, paints.
A county clerk approached with official papers. Clara Aguilar was formally recognized as Rebecca's guardian and manager of her artistic estate.
She'll need someone to guard her gift. Clara, you've been that person from the start.
As the band played, Rebecca sat on a wooden crate, a new brush in hand, and began to paint the laughing crowd in strokes of pure gratitude. The mural of a small girl's pain became a portrait of a community redeemed, and the mute girl smiled without sound. 4 years after the trial, at 16, Rebecca stood in the town's new art hall, her paintings lining the walls like windows into a soul.
She hasn't spoken a word since she was 4, but these canvases, they say everything she ever needed to.
The centerpiece hung on the far wall, a large canvas titled The Witness, a tiny girl crouched behind a water barrel, firelight in her hair, a man with a turquoise ring in the shadows.
I painted the night my parents died. Now it hangs in light, not darkness.
The townsfolk who once called for her arrest now filed through, some weeping, some simply silent, before the girl who had turned horror into art.
They see now, Mika. You didn't curse anyone. You just remembered what they tried to bury.
Behind the barrel, I thought I would die silently. But my paintbrush found a way to scream.
By evening, every painting had sold, and a scholarship to the National Art Institute had been offered. Clara Aguilar, once a farm woman, now managed the estate, negotiating contracts with the same fierce love that had saved a child.
I cannot speak. But tonight, the whole world is listening.
A decade after the trial, Rebecca Aguilar, now 27, sat before a bank of microphones, her aunt translating questions with a hand on her knee.
She doesn't speak with her voice. She speaks through her brush. Every canvas is a sentence.
Rebecca listened, her eyes serene, the faint scar of a childhood handcuff still visible on her wrist.
The silence that once imprisoned me has become my signature.
A reporter asked if she wished she could speak. Clara squeezed Rebecca's shoulder before answering.
She has told me she already says everything she needs to. The rest is silence.
Behind them, a large, half-finished canvas rested on an easel. A black stallion mid-gallop, its mane streaming light, no longer falling. Law students nationwide studied Aguilar v. State as the first legal precedent for admitting artistic memory as evidence.
The girl behind the barrel became the woman behind the canvas.
As the cameras flashed, she lifted a brush and added a single stroke of gold, the stallion's eye, alive with freedom decades after the trial. Rebecca returned to the old barn loft, its rafters still holding the scent of hay and memory. Finished canvases leaned against every wall, their colors soft in the golden light. An elderly Clara knitted in a rocking chair near the dusty window.
It's full now, not with ghosts, with your colors.
This place once held my nightmares. Now it holds my peace.
She looked at the far corner where, as a girl, she had crouched in a paint-stained dress and put a falling horse to paper.
I thought that painting was prophecy. It was only the truth trying to escape.
The old lantern still hung from the beam, its glass smoky but unbroken. Dust motes danced in the sunbeams like tiny golden brushstrokes.
We are home, Mija, really home.
Rebecca picked up a brush and added a stroke to the canvas on her easel. A black stallion running through a field of wild flowers, its mane a river of light.
I fell silent, but my hands never stopped speaking.
The brush found the canvas with the same sureness it had that first morning in the loft, but now the horse did not fall. It galloped, hooves tearing through wild flowers instead of stone. The cliff was nowhere in sight. Only open meadow and a sky washed gold. Rebecca set the brush down and rested her hands in her lap.
Every image I ever needed to release has been painted.
Her eyes, once distant with terror, now held only the calm of a story complete. The afternoon light poured through the cracks in the old barn, just as it had when she was 11. Clara slept soundly, the yarn still looped around her fingers.
I was never cursed. I was only trying to remember.
And now, in the place where a nightmare had once fallen, only beauty ran.